Well, good evening, guys, and happy Halloween. By the time you're watching this, it'll probably be like Friday or Saturday. But I'm starting this video today on Monday. We're going to be doing some ball joints and some bushings all up front. Do a little intro, and we'll get into it. Alright, so I'm getting down to the nitty-gritty of things to replace on this car. Now I'm doing all the ball joints and the bushings. Now, the way I look at it on a car, the frame is kind of the skeletal system, if you will, and all of the bushings is kind of like your cartilage. Over time, it just gets worn out. It can affect your steering, the way it goes over a bump, the way you get feedback in your steering wheel, even in your seat even. And just over time, the car's 21 years old, rubber just kind of decays. So I'm doing all the bushings one by one, upgraded to a poly type bushing, which will not degrade. A lot less give, so the car will feel more responsive. It may be too harsh, I don't know. Worst case, I will get some slightly softer springs for my coilovers if that's the case. Also doing the bushings, I'm going to go ahead and do the ball joints as well, upper and lower in the front. And if it totally transforms the feel of this car, I will do the rear. And then I think everything on this car, consumable wise, has been replaced. I believe so. Geez, man, yeah. So all the exhaust, all the clutch system, all the brake system, all the lights, all the seats. Not much in this car has not been touched or upgraded in some way. So how I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna do probably the front driver's side first, get familiar with it, and then I'll walk you through the passenger side step by step, from taking the wheel off, just removing the entire control arms, taking the control arms off your knuckle, all that stuff. And then now what I'm using to do this, and hopefully it's enough, is a vise here, a bench vise, and I got a ball joint removal tool. You can get them at Harbor Freight for like 60, 70 bucks. I ordered mine off Amazon. It's like $55. Or you can actually rent them at any notable parts store. Advance, O'Reilly, AutoZone. They'll loan them out to you, something like 40, 50 bucks. And then once you're done, you bring it back, get your money back. But it's always good to have one in your garage, just in case. Yeah, here are my poly bushings. I opted for black just to keep it looking sort of OE. This is a top control arm bushing right there, and it comes with a couple tubes of grease. It can be kind of a bear to get in, from what I understand. This is for a lower control arm, and again, all this I'll cover when we get there. We'll go over the camber on the front, how to adjust the camber if you want to, and how to mark it so you don't lose alignment while doing this as well. And then I'll show you how to press out and in ball joints. Not too hard. I've never done it on a C5, but it's pretty much the same in any car. So I'm going to go ahead and get, like I said, the driver's side squared away, and I'll show you how that looks, and then we'll go from there. All right, so it's been an interesting week. I got the driver's side here wrapped up, all the bushings, as you can see there. All the ball joints are done, bushings down there. A lot of lessons learned to do, which I'll show you on the passenger side. I started this on Monday. It's Saturday morning. I got COVID the second day I started doing this, so that sidelined me for about 3 days. So I'm starting to feel a little better now, so I'm starting to work on it. I got this back together today. Yeah, definitely not a hard job, pain in the ass job, for sure. I will say these bushings are in there tight. These things are, there's no deflection at all with these. These are no joke, poly bushings. So yeah, we'll go do a little hyperlapse on the passenger side, and then I'll start showing you how to do the all four of the bushings and the upper and lower ball joints. All right, getting pretty good at taking the entire suspension apart, etc. Real quick before I move on to taking out the bushings and the ball joints, your cams here, both sides, your left and right, you are going to want to mark them right there. You want to mark it reference to where it is up there. That way it'll keep your alignment, or your alignment, your camber. Otherwise your camber is going to be all kind of out of whack, all that stuff. So yeah, when this guy is up there in the frame, attached to here, just do a line across to where it meets up with that guy. All right, it's about 2 in the morning. I'm exhausted. I still kind of feel like doo-doo. So I'm gonna go sleep, and hopefully tomorrow I can bang out all the ball joints on this side and the bushings, get it back in. Hopefully a video up by Sunday. We'll see. All right, see you guys tomorrow. All right, it's the next day. It's November, and it's like 80 degrees. It's weird. I got mosquitoes in the garage. All right, so what we're gonna be doing here is total of 4 bushings per side, so 8 total bushings. Taking these guys out, these guys, and then 2 ball joints per side. This is your upper. This one's really shot, and your lower. This one's not too bad. This one might have been replaced recently, but regardless, we're gonna go ahead and push it out and put a new one in. To do this job, you're gonna need obviously a ball joint tool. You can rent these guys from a local auto parts store for like nothing, or you can buy one for about 60 to 100 bucks for a decent set. A scissor jack, that'll come in handy in a minute. I like to use a impact wrench. A vise is very handy doing this. So first things first, we'll go ahead and push both of these out, and I'll show you how I do that. All right, so for this little guy, this one's kind of interesting because the other side I actually had to cut it off to get it off. So I made it super simple. This side, I put this little cap on right here. I don't have something narrow enough to fit the C-clamp around it, but I got it out about, geez, a little more than 1/8 of an inch. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my mini sledge and just beat it out of there, but don't hit the knuckle. All right, this little guy was kind of a boner. Actually had to sawzall it, the top, this little guy, and then I punched it right out. All right, the bottom ball joint's much easier setup. This little cavity goes right around the collar there. All of this, almost 3/4 inch, it's just gonna get pushed down through. I got one little cup and then a little top piece with the other end of the drill thing here. And we'll go ahead and zip it right on out. Yeah, the bottom one's so much easier. It zipped right on out, zero drama. Took me all of about 40 seconds. All right, this is probably the easiest bushing removal. It's brainless, takes 2 seconds. I've seen so many ways to do this online. This is the easiest way to do it. Scissor jack in between. Now the arm is much stronger than overcoming the bearings. I have a little bit of pressure on there already. You can see it's already starting to come out. I'm gonna give this a few little spins and it'll get both sides out. Quick and easy. There we have it, both of the upper bushings out. Took about 30 seconds. All right, the bottom one's almost as easy. Using kind of a large socket up against in there, up against the little washer deal. I'm gonna push both sides out. Same method. My philosophy is work smarter, not harder. All right, there you go, quick and dirty. Yeah, all 4 of those took all of 5 minutes total. So next thing we're gonna do is press in the ball joints, and then we're gonna remove the rubber off of these, which honestly, for these two, it's super simple. These are a little more involved, but not that hard. All right, great success. Upper ball joints in. I just used 1 cup, this little saucer deal, and then the, I guess the pin you call it. Push it in, quick and dirty. Man, so for whatever reason, this bottom ball joint has been the biggest pain so far. I did not want to go in. I had to use quite a few different configurations. This little saucer deal on the bottom, and then this little cup on top was the ticket. And man, this thing was tight to get in there. I froze it too. But it's in there. Let's go ahead and start taking off those bushings. All right, so this is probably the most exciting, fun part, is taking off the bushings. Now, the lower ones are easy. We'll get to that in a second, but the top one's kind of a pain. Some people just melt them off. I'm not a fan of that. So what I do is I kind of heat them up, get them really soft, and then I take a box knife with some fresh blades, and then, yeah, once you get it soft, you can kind of just cut it off. And then at the end, we're gonna need a Dremel type tool. Mine's a knockoff, but it works just as well. And a bunch of these little wire bits, and it'll clean it up really, really well. So I'm gonna go ahead, heat this up, cut it off, and I'll show you what it looks like after you go over it with some metal brush bits. And you wanna do it for about 3 or 4 minutes until you see it starts to smoke just a little bit, then you're good to go. All right, and then it should cut just like this. Super simple. So I'm gonna go ahead around all the way and just cut it before it cools off and just kind of rip it off. All right, once you get it softened up, it comes off super easy with the blade. That took me all of 30 seconds, maybe. So now I'm gonna take my my wire wheel here and go to town, and yeah, simple as that. Then we're done. Here's how we're looking with the wire wheel. Looks pretty good. I can live with that. So next thing we gotta do is put on our bushing. All right, and we gotta lubricate this guy too. Lubricate the hell out of the inside of this guy, because over time, poly does have a tendency to squeak. I'm using this in conjunction with the marine grease as well. So really get this thing lubricated, this guy too. And then, yeah, this should slip right over. The other side did. I did have to squeeze this in the vise though and actually put it into the side. I'll show you in a second. All right, my hands are all sticky here, but this guy's all greased up inside of there. I have it in the vise, give it a little bit more of an oval shape, and this will actually slip right in. I need 2 hands to do it though. All right, and again, yes, this will slip right over. Takes a little bit of muscle, but you can do it. And then your bushing should move freely. The fatter end's gonna go up closer to this little, what do you call it? Larger washer edge, if you will. Just be cognizant of that. There's 2 edges. One's kind of tapered, and the one's kind of fat. The fat end is going to be the other fat end. All right, so I'm going to do the other side, and we'll get into the lower bushings. All right, 2 complete upper bushings. Let's move on to the lowers. All right, the lowers are a little different, but easier. There's actually 3 parts to this. So your middle, what do you call it? Your middle metal dowel, if you will, and there's 2 kind of collars on both sides. Once we get this rubber bushing off, we're going to bust off one of these, but it's going to go back in later on. It kind of clamps back together. Otherwise, you can never put a bushing on. To do this, very simple. A butane torch, right? I'm gonna light it. I'm gonna put it inside of here for about 5 minutes, and then literally make a slit, which I did already. See how soft it was, but I'll wait till I melt it better. Once you do that, it just kind of the whole thing unwraps. It comes right off, and you're left with almost 0 residue. Just like this. It's pretty cool. It's like a little jet engine. About 5 minutes, and then this thing unwraps, comes off like a wrapper. It's crazy. All right, I had to move fast. Once it starts smoking, you know you're good. Put a slit in it, use some gloves real quick, throw it there, and as fast as you can, just unravel it. It comes off super easy. And there we go. Very minimal work. We got to do that little bushing now. I'm going to do the same thing to the other one, and I'll be right back. Boom. Easy day. You can get both those off in probably 8 minutes. 0 effort. All right, next thing we got to do is get this bushing assembly apart. Like I said, there's 3 parts. There's 2 end caps and the centerpiece. I just use a punch like this and hit it with a hammer, and it'll fall right off. And that's how it looks once you get it off, just like that. And we'll press it back in once we put the bushing back in to the control arm. And then once you got both of them like that, go ahead and give it the wire wheel business, and then we're ready to slip the bushings on. Okay, the bottom bushings to put in are very simple. These are cleaned up, by the way. The kind of order it's going to go in, the fat end is going to go on the outside. You're going to push this guy in. You can't push in by hand, but only lube the inside. Do not lube the outside. So you can press these in. You can get it started and use your vise to push it in. Pretty simple. And then these guys are going to push in. Again, use your vise to squish it in really good, because there's almost no tolerance when you get these things in. You want it super tight, and then use your vise again to put this on the end and put it back in place. So again, these you're just going to push in with no lubrication. Lube the hell out of the inside. See those little grooves? That's supposed to keep lubrication inside longer. And then press these guys in, and then at the end, push this little guy in. Super simple. And then the top bushing is a little more complicated, but not hard. So let me go ahead and knock this out real quick. Those are in there tight like a gnat's booty. You will have a little bit of grease come out. That's okay. But again, yeah, it's kind of hammered in. The bushing, use your vise to squeeze it in there, and then kind of tap in your metal insert, and then put the collar piece on, vise, and it is in there good. I did though, now on doing the driver's side, putting it back in, I did have to squish it a little more, because again, there's no forgiveness, 0 tolerance on the poly bushing, so hopefully these will go in a little easier, but we'll get there momentarily. All right, now, doing the upper orientation can be confusing. Keep in mind what side of the car this is going to go on. The little bumps here, that's the top. So this will be the knuckle underneath this. Okay, this is the top of the car right here. This is on the passenger side, so this side's going to be forward. On these guys, there's a little R, and the other one is an F. So make sure those are on the right orientation. The difference is these have more of an oval. These have more of a circle. I believe it's for alignment purposes. Don't quote me on that, but there is a reason for that for some reason. Now, how I put these in is slow and steady. I use my ball joint tool, and the little guy fits in there just perfect. And then I actually don't use the impact. I use a large adjustable wrench and slowly just inch it in. No grease on this at all. And if this gets out of alignment, it's kind of tapping up the hammer. For me, this is the best way. If there's another way to do it, please let me know. It takes about 10 minutes per side to do, but not hard to do. Boom, just like that. Good to go. Actually, that one's actually pretty quick. All right, one more side, and then we're ready to start putting stuff back together. Putting everything back in the car. Now, the only drama I had on the driver's side was putting the lower control arm back in because there is zero give in the poly bushings. Unlike rubber, there's some give. There is none. So what I did, I got this side in first, kind of cockeyed, and kind of tapped it up a little bit. This side's gonna be off like 1/8 of an inch. Get it where you kind of want it. Use a tiny sledge, just kind of tap it. We're not doing nothing rough. Just kind of tap it, shock it a little bit, and it'll catch. It'll go in there. Kind of a pain, but it's in. So like I said, there's gonna be zero deflection with these bushings. Holy cow. And then to get them seated where I wanted, I just use a piece of wood and just tap it in to my liking until I get my cams in, and then I'm good to go. All right, let me get this wrapped up, and then we will go for a little drive. All right, well, I just drove this thing around the block, well, for about 20 minutes. Holy cow. Now, I know I say a lot, that's probably the best thing I've done to this car. That might be the best thing I've done to this car. The steering feels good, the suspension feels good. There's no deflection at all. The thing that pisses me off the most is that it feels so good, now I have to do the rear, which sucks. I don't think this video is gonna get a lot of traffic given it's kind of boring, but if there's a want for me to do the rear, I will do the rear on video as well. Highly recommend this. Holy cow. It feels how the car should have felt from the factory. There is zero slop in the steering wheel. It's a combination of, you know, the rubber bushings, especially the lower ones, are over 20 years old and they're rubber. Going from that to a poly, which is almost like it's very similar to like a aluminum, if you will, but it's not. But wow, the entire driving dynamics are completely different. I wish I could explain it better in words. It just feels proper. It feels like a proper, super expensive sports car. Went out on a driveway, I could feel right away. I went over a couple spots around the neighborhood, where if I go over, especially on a turn, I can feel some slop in the steering wheel. All that's gone. So between the upper and lower ball joints and the polys all up front, I mean, the front's all brand new now, from suspension to all the bushings to the hub, coilover suspension, all the, what else did I do? Tie rods. So only thing left to do is polys in the back, and this car suspension wise is completely overhauled from not only from when I got it, but from the factory. So I might wait on the back a little bit. It's such a crappy job. Bushings just suck. It's just not fun. It's hard to get motivated to do, you know? Yeah, it's not a hard job. I definitely recommend doing this. I think between all the bushings and the upper and lower ball joints, geez, I want to say $150. So very inexpensive. You will need a couple special tools like you saw in the video, but man, it totally transformed the car. I was worried it'd ride too rough. I wouldn't say it rides rough. It's more precise. It complements the coilovers very well. Yeah, so I am filthy. The garage is filthy. I'm gonna go shower and maybe I'll edit this tonight. I don't know, but you will see it obviously this week sometime. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later this week for a Mini Cooper video. Actually, that's something I've been meaning to do for that guy. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you next time. Mark out.